So, no, that's the Zoom.
Oh,
So you're not on
I think we might have.
what's the task? I don't see a task. So,
It's working.
so hit this. Hit this guy. There we go. Now it's running. All right, Hobie, give it a shot. What's that? Might take 30 seconds. Right now, man. No, that's on me. Are we live? All right, give us 1 second, guys. Pull something up here. Sue? Yeah? Can I email this to you right now and you go print it off? Yeah. And just number it, number 11. It's for the disposal of the truck. I'm talking about it. I just forgot to include it in the list. And fire truck disposal. Yeah. That's my okay. She does that. All right. It is 7:01.
Thank you.
Let me turn this on. Okay. At 7:01, we are going to call to order the 2025 budget hearing for the town of Newfields. Just understanding for what's going to happen tonight. This is just a budget hearing. We're going to present to you, the legislative body, the budget that is being proposed for warrant article 1, which is the operating budget for the town. We will also go through the other warrant articles that will appear on the ballot, presumably on the ballot for our March elections. Now we're more than happy to discuss, answer questions about any of the items in here tonight, but there won't be any changes tonight. The changes to any of this can take place at deliberative session, which is February 14th. I think February 4th. So it's at deliberative session. Anybody will be able to recommend, discuss, and the body will vote on any proposed changes to any of the warrant articles. So tonight we'll just go through the budget and tell you what we see for next year. So are there any questions about the process or what we're doing here tonight?
Michael,
Yeah.
I just offered that this budget that we're going through starts 1 January of this year. And it goes through, we're on a calendar year, January through 31 December.
Yep. So we've already started spending 2025 money. Just understand that. So this will basically cover us for the year, and what you voted on in March will be the underlying number that deals with operating. So with that, hopefully we're going to work from basically the MS6, which is a document that we use, we file with the state. We use this as a guideline for our budget. And then hopefully you also picked up a copy of the warrants. We're going to walk through these. And then there's other materials up there for a couple other items that if you can care to read, you can go through. ALS, yeah, and there's a recycling petition there as well. All right, so with that, we will start working through our budget. First item up is in the general government category. I'll take these in blocks, and if there's anything within the block that anybody wants to ask a question about, we'll run through them briefly, but if you have questions, we'll do it just kind of all at once. So the general government really covers the operations of the town offices. The executive is the salaries for the staff downstairs. Election, registration, and vital stats are exactly that. It's mostly election money. Typically what we see is in years like last year, where we had 4 elections, the number will go up, and then next year in 2025, we just have town elections, so the number will typically go lower, but there's the reason for the larger bump in an off year is that we're going to be purchasing new election machines, and so there's money in that line to purchase the new election machine. They got it, to slip it in. That thing's 25 years old. We're getting the state-approved new technology, so we'll be moving forward with that. Financial administration is mainly for our audit and other financial items that we cover. Revaluation of the property is mostly for our assessor, who does regular assessments, deals with abatements in town. Legal expense is legal expense, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that in our warrant articles. Planning and zoning is for our planning and zoning boards, the services that they use there. General government buildings is mostly funds for utilities, heat, and electric. Also, amount of money for some repairs to this building that the town owns. Cemeteries is for the cemeteries. The trustees basically manage that. And then insurance, health insurance, property insurance, liability insurance. Advertising is for notices that we have to post. And then other general government is a kind of a catch-all for other things that have to go on. We have an RFP for the noise testing. We have money for the RFP Queen Court's not in there. But these are the general government functions that we have. So with that quick summary, is there anything you want to add to that? Great. Are there any questions about any of the lines for general government? Yes, Steve?
Why do we know insurance
That's not necessarily correct. There was insurance expense. I think it was we just didn't get it in there because the bill came at the end of the year for the most part.
Correct.
Yeah. And the big difference, by the way, is so in the prior year it was 26,811. We had a lot of credits that we used to basically keep insurance costs low last year. We don't have the credits this year. But last year's budget was up 8.9%. So we were looking for any way to keep it down last year. So we used the credits against that. But that's the actual expenditures for insurance. It was in the 30. What is it?
44,000.
44,000. Yeah. Other questions on general government? Yes, sir.
The legal expenses, I see that there's a warrant article on that. Is that to kind of cover for the overrun this year? And there's some outstanding legal?
So, yes. And so right now, the town, there's 3 lawsuits that the town is addressing right now. We have been sued on a zoning matter by somebody here in town. We were sued by the bunch of individuals regarding our picketing ordinance from 2020. So we're at state court on that one right now. And then there's the ongoing lawsuit by the abutters to the Vernon family farm suing the Vernons and the town. So one of the things, and we'll get to it in a moment, that what we're doing is putting in a legal expendable trust fund. Normally our legal expenses are somewhere in that $15,000 range. The trust fund is basically on years where there's a lot, we'll draw from the trust fund as opposed to trying to have the legal do this, or we ask for $40,000 every year, but we only use 15. It means we're taking more money from you for taxes that we really shouldn't have been doing. So that's the rationale of trying to get the legal line being consistent, so our operating budget doesn't have volatility, but having an expendable trust fund to deal with those years where it's a lot.
Thanks.
No, thanks for asking. Other questions about general government? Okay. Public safety. So these are the largest some of the largest line items in obviously the police. Most of that is obviously personnel. Chief, do you want to make any specific mentions about it?
Yeah, the increase obviously this year, I provided the select board a survey through the state of New Hampshire. We had 73% of law enforcement agents in the state that participated in the survey. This survey was done by a local chief that was dispersed amongst all the chiefs in New Hampshire. And then we had a Seacoast survey that was part of that, so obviously different locations. I'm sure Rockingham County, which is one of the most expensive counties in the state. So what we're trying to do is it's taken a few years since I've gotten here. Obviously, everybody knows what the retention and improvement issues are amongst law enforcement, not only here in New Hampshire, Seacoast area, and obviously all across the country. So we're trying to keep our wages, at the 50% mean, we're not up here, but we can't be down to the 4 because our offices are being closed by other departments. So these raises this year, the increase of basically health insurance. Health Trust gave us a nice 16.3 increase on our health insurance this year. So that across the board, we have 3 of our 4 full-time officers that have a health plan through the town. So that is one of the increases in our budget. And like I said, salaries across the board for full-time offices, part-time offices, and the admin assistant. We have been stable here with full staff since June of 22, and I can guarantee not a lot of departments can say that. And it does cost more money to train if you can find officers, and then once you do train them, nothing says they're going to stay because other departments are giving $15,000 to $30,000 sign bonuses to go on. And right now, we have hired our officers with no sign bonuses, but we do have to treat our officers because if we don't treat them well, somebody else will gladly will.
And I'll say this, outside of the personnel costs for the most part, most of the other line items in the budget are fairly flat with the police. Things like, the uniforms line, the equipment lines, gasoline, and everything else. So we've tried to keep it that increase as low as possible. But as Chief notes, currently in the Seacoast, everybody's poaching officers, and we've been fortunate to have a very consistent and I think a very good police force. So that's the reason for that jump in the line. Ambulance. This is just for regular ambulance service, which we contract through Newmarket for our ambulance service. Fire department, Chief, you have anything you want to throw out?
No. Obviously, we went with a slight decrease in our budget, and it kind of sounds a little strange. But we had last year was the last payment on one of our lease purchases, which was radios. So we were able to drop a little bit, but I did consume some of that because of obviously expenses. I mean, our expenses are just getting through the roof between memberships and everything else. Repairs this year were huge. We had almost $65,000 of repairs this year to our trucks, so which wasn't. I think I had budgeted 15.
Yeah.
So. So as I said, we try to keep it as controlled as we can and go when we have to. And I saw the opportunity to drop it a little this year. So.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Building inspection is for our building inspector, Larry Shaw, who does all that work in town. And emergency management, Jeff Feenster's not there here, but that is basically supplying equipment and radios, other stuff for emergency management around town. Any questions on any of the public safety lines? Oh? Yes, Wayne.
Those are 911 calls.
Dispatch?
Dispatch.
Dispatch goes through.
911 takes calls, E911 out of Concord, and then they transfer them to Newmarket, which is our dispatcher.
Newmarket still
Yep.
dispatch. Okay.
Yep, we're on contract with Newmarket for
So
dispatch.
like,
We went off for several years and determined that that's really not as reliable and as a good a solution, so we went back to New One for this.
I remember that.
All right. Next subject, airport. Our airport operations are still zero. No, next, highways and streets. This is mainly the money for paving, plowing, sanding, cleaning out our culverts, all the activities of the road agent. It's going up substantially next year. Operating budget of $400,600. But in addition to that, we voted to encumber $60,000 that wasn't used this year that they're going to use next year. And the reason the big jump is they're going to be, we're going to start on deer trees. As part of our 20-year road paving plan, deer trees, very big. It actually will take 2 years to get through deer trees to do all the paving there. But this will be the first major paving for deer trees. So that number went up substantially over last year. And then street lighting is, our street lighting is our resource bill. Any questions about highways and streets? Yeah.
That might be fading, but I thought last year we were gonna spend more than, what's it? We budgeted $420,000. What happened? Because I thought we had a lot of projects that were behind.
We do a lot. So Pleasant Street was, we've been waiting on DES to deal with the Pleasant Street issue. So if we have the engineers in line, we're ready to go. It's because we're behind on that. It's that portion has been in limbo.
So is that budgeted for in 2020?
We will have the money for that. Yes, there's grant money included to do Pleasant Street. All right. Any other questions? Sanitation, that's mostly our trash collection. We've broken it out this year. I know you'll see like recycling disposal, there's a zero in prior year. What we're trying to do is break it out on collection and then tipping fees for recycling, collection and tipping fees for regular trash, excuse me. And then there's also the fall cleanup money and the sanitation, basically our fee to Newmarket to allow everyone access to the transfer station in Newmarket. Questions about trash and recycling? Yes.
Michael, I used to live in Connecticut, and trash and recycling was an individual homeowner's responsibility.
Yep.
On trash. Is our town obligated to have this function done through the town?
No, there is no obligation for the town to do this. There are towns around us who don't do that, who still rely on Northampton is individual homeowners or in businesses are required to do their own trash collection. That being said, this has been something that has been in the town's budget for quite some time. People are more than happy to try to change that. But I would say that outside of periodically somebody like you asking the question, nobody's really approached us to try to comprehensively remove trash collection. But it is not a requirement of the town, for sure.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on sanitation? No? All right. Health. The only line under this is health agencies. That is money that we collect and then distribute to a variety of nonprofit organizations, typically that provide services in town. Things like Ready Rides for seniors, CASA, some of the shelters that provide services. That's that line. Any questions on health?
I'm sorry, where are you?
Oh, I'm on page 3. It's labeled page 3. Because the first page is labeled page 2. In the middle of the page, it's got health and then welfare.
There you go.
Yeah, you got it?
Got it.
So yeah, so $3,000 for the upcoming year. And, all right, and the welfare line, I might as well just add welfare to this. The welfare line is, we basically make an appropriate, an allocation of funds Typically, this money goes for people in town who need some direct assistance. They lost their job, they need to pay the electric bill. They need some oil, heating oil in the middle of the winter. One of the members of the Board of Selectmen is designated as a welfare officer every March, and they're responsible for taking in the request, reviewing them, making recommendations to the board, and then allocating funds as the board sees fit. Yeah, and this is our welfare officer.
So that's one of the hats I wear. And so we had 4,000. So we were very fortunate last year. We had some private NGOs, private entities step up and contribute substantial funds to cover some of these heating and electrical expenses. So that precluded us from having to touch our funds, but it also left a reservoir in case things went really south. That's why we flatlined last year, but we've already had some events this year where we had to do some electrical bills, et cetera. So that's why the number, we didn't spend a lot last year, but because we had the outside agencies, but this is critical because these people really get the box, and it's really a good thing for the town to be able to help them out.
Yep. Any questions about health or welfare lines? All right. Culture and recreation, Parks and Rec is basically, that's the mowing services, correct, for the parks. Library is allocation to the library for the personnel there and upkeep of the building. Patriotic purposes is for flags for veterans on gravestones. And then celebration committee. Is that right? I'm sorry. Do we have those numbers backwards? Isn't it 23 this year?
21, 2, 20, 16, 5, 23, we changed it to 1.
Oh, okay, 16, oh, that's right, because we removed the other stuff. Okay, so there's a big jump in that, and the reason for that is, for the 175th, when they went ahead and we were allocating the budget for the 175th, there was, and I blame it on myself, a misunderstanding about funds that got raised, like donations and sponsorships for the events during the 175th. Funds were going to be spent for that. But under state law, any funds that get spent, because that money is town money, even though it comes into a sponsorship, has to be approved by the body, right, by you on the election. We hadn't included funds that were going to be spent that were raised from the sponsorships last year. And so there's approximately a little more than $7,000 of expenses that individuals in this town have fronted for the town, but haven't been reimbursed because we didn't approve reimbursement for those funds last year. So we're going to use the sponsorship funds that were raised and not spent to reimburse them this year, but we need the town to approve those types of expenditures. So that's why you see the increase from the normal 9,000 to the 16,000. There's about $7,000 in there of expenses that individuals in town are carrying that we're, in effect, in hindsight, going to approve allowing them to be reimbursed. Okay? I know it's a long, convoluted explanation, but hopefully you understand. Any questions about culture and recreation? Yes, Steve?
Sorry.
No.
Library.
We're flying through this.
What's going on there? It's going up $8,000.
So what's happening there is this year you'll see what we actually spent. We're constantly trying to hire somebody, Steve. So last year we had budgeted for a children's librarian, which is more expensive than the assistant librarian. That didn't happen. It's hard to get somebody who's still part-time, very part-time, so 8 hours within a week, if that. So you get somebody, not a lot of money, so we can afford. That didn't happen. That was one of the things. We had someone, we're trying to find somebody, so we got somebody in June starting. This is somebody who's going to the library signing secret. So we didn't spend that money, so you can see that it was budgeted for or not. This year, unfortunately, we just had somebody leave at the beginning, like last week. So now we're going back and well define some more people. To do that, we know that we have to be competitive, and every year we go and do a comp search of all the libraries outside, because we want to make sure that we're looking at, what are other libraries out there? We're still kind of lower than everybody else. Not in all cases, but in most cases we're much lower. So we're looking at a starting salary for assistant library now, about $16 an hour, okay? Which, if you look at McDonald's, you're starting at 17. So it's what we have. Again, it's still a part-time job too, very much part-time. We're not open full-time, right? We're open and we're serving the patrons what they want. But so that's where that comes in within that. We've been lucky to have a director who's locally very committed to this and doing a great job. So we've offered her a little bit of an increase in wages there, right? Some services that we're offering right now that can tack that on. So that's where that increase comes from.
Yeah, the last couple of years, as they've had vacancies in staffing, the library has not spent up to their budget. The real issue is really trying to fill those roles.
Yeah, we haven't, that's a great point. We hadn't spent to our budget. We budgeted, hey, what we'd like to do, but still, because we're not overall time getting part-time people, so we offer a little more, but this is much like the police and another department, very hard to get somebody to come in for a part-time job. I mean, it's really part-time, but sad, not a great job with what we have.
And so everyone knows, so last year we encumbered money to complete the renovation of the floors in the library, which just was completed. So I encourage you to all go look at our spanking new library.
That project is done. There's been costs in town to remediate the asbestos in the floors. That's done. And then the Friends of the Library have done an awesome job getting this new carpets, new painting, a whole new circulation desk, new chairs. We're going to refurnish that. And you'll see a note on the town board when that's going to open next week. But we're going to do a preview for the Friends, and then for everybody else, a little bit more of a bigger opening. So it's getting fresh on.
Okay. Any other questions on culture and rec? Conservation, this is mainly the Conservation Commission. This is, the increase is really dealing with the monitoring that the Conservation Commission is responsible for some of the conservation properties around town. They basically bring in monitoring consultants to review, make sure that whoever is in control of the property is living up to the easements and the requirements of the easements. Any questions about conservation? No? Debt service. So we have 2 years left on our long-term bonds. Next year it'll total $63,200. There'll be one more payment for 2026, and then that bond will roll off. So, bottom line, the recommended operating budget appropriation for next year would be $2,225,263. This is a 6.3% increase over the operating budget from last year. Any questions about anything in that budget? No? All right, we'll do a quick review of the warrant articles then. So I'll read each of these, and again, more than happy to discuss or answer any questions on any of these. We can't change them tonight, but hopefully you'll go home more informed. All right, Article 1, which is usually the operating budget, and this year is, shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $2,225,263. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $2,174,611, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Newfields or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. The select board recommends the $2,225,263 as set forth on said budget. Majority vote will pass that warrant. Any questions about the operating budget? I wouldn't think so, we just kind of went through it. Great. Article 2, future purchase of fire truck capital reserve. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the fire truck capital reserve fund previously established for the future purchase of a new fire truck, recommended by the select board 3-0. Any questions about this item? No? Excellent. Fire department equipment capital reserve. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 to be added to the fire department equipment capital reserve fund previously established, recommended by the select board 3-0? Any questions? All right. Celebration expendable trust fund. Shall the town vote to establish a celebration expendable trust fund per RSA 3119A for the purpose of funding the acquisition of celebration materials? This fund is authorized to accept privately donated gifts, legacies, and devices to be utilized for the same purpose as the trust fund. The town will raise and appropriate the sum of $29,147 to be placed in this fund to be funded by the Celebration Committee checking account. No money can be raised from taxation. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend from said fund, recommended by the select board 3-0. So just as a quick understanding, the Celebration Committee had a checking account at Citizens Bank that they were utilizing. What this will do is basically kind of get rid of that hanging out there, bring it more formally into the accounts of the town as an expendable trust fund. In addition, by doing this, they can accept private donations. They can't do that right now with that account. So anybody who wants to contribute to any of the activities in town or just do a general donation to the celebration, we now have a vehicle to do that. So they're going to be taking the money that's in the checking account right now, a lot of which was raised during the 175th, and transferring it into this expendable trust fund. And it'll be able to be utilized throughout the year by the Celebration Committee coming to the Select Board, and the Select Board as agents who can then authorize disbursements from the fund directly. They don't have to go back every year, only in March, to say, hey, we want to buy new banners for the town and put them up. They can do it kind of in the middle of the year. That's what that is. Any questions about that? Yes, Steve?
I'm a little confused here.
Yep.
It sounds like we have money left in that check.
Correct.
But when we went to the budget, we were talking about, well, there's people that are still kind of hanging out there.
Correct.
How does this all fit together?
So the funds raised last year from things like sponsorships went back into the general operating account.
Not in this.
Correct. And and while we collected those, we weren't authorized to disperse them. So that's the $7,000 that was increased to their operating budget to disperse. These other funds were raised from other activities, and so in effect we're moving those over to an expendable trust fund. It's better from an auditing standpoint, it's better from a control standpoint from the town, and it's better because we now can really take donations in where before we couldn't do that.
As we discussed with the trustees side, continuing the trust fund is a good idea.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, this will end up in the trustees' hands. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
Just a point of order. So people will, whoever steps up to run the celebration committee, will do. They will come, they'll be appointed, right? Come to the select board.
Sure.
Hey, I want to join that. No big deal. People can do that. People welcome. But if they want to expend something, instead of having a checking account, now that it's okay, comes in, hey, we want to buy this, come together with a plan.
Come to the board can authorize a disbursement at any point in time.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I can't see the board having any problem doing this, but pretty sure those.
And again, from a control and auditing standpoint, it's far better for the town to have it this way. The risk on the Citizens Bank account is not that anybody in town would do it, but somebody could literally take that and write themselves a check and take it. This gets rid of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on Article 4? Okay. Article 5, Health Insurance Expendable Trust Fund. Shall the town vote to establish a health insurance expendable trust fund per RSA 3119A(v)(5) for the purpose of payment of health claims or health insurance premiums for the benefit of any employees or retired employees of the town, and to raise and appropriate $30,000 to be placed in this fund, with this amount to come from the December 31st, 2024 unassigned fund balance. No money can be raised from taxation. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend from said fund, recommended by the select board 3-0. So, as we were talking about, and again, I think Chief mentioned, insurance premiums keep going up. The big issue here is if we were to get an additional person on the staff who decides to come on the insurance, and we haven't budgeted for premium payments, we don't necessarily have the money for them to do that. So by establishing an expendable trust fund, if, let's say somebody in the town offices wants to come onto our health insurance, right, we'll be able to basically start paying premiums from this. Now, obviously in the next operating budget, we'd include it in that, but this will allow us in the middle of the year, or if we lose an office, or if we pick up an officer who wants to come on health insurance, right, things like that, it gives the town flexibility. With a little luck, we never spend this money, but this allows us to do this in the middle of the year where we had very little budget flexibility to do that. And with health insurance premiums so high, somebody comes in mid-year, you may have to spend $15,000 in premiums just for half a year. We're a small town, that's a big number. So this gives the town a little bit more ability to address issues that may come up when it comes to health insurance. Okay. Any questions about the health insurance expenditure trust fund? Yeah.
So this is for full-time people?
Presumably, yeah. Because we only offer insurance full-time.
How many people full-time do we have?
On the insurance?
Yeah.
4.
Right. And that's the
3 officers and soup.
Right. And that could vary.
Yep.
Right. Somebody can say, hey, I'm not taking that employee.
Correct. And that's why we're doing this.
Gotcha.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Sorry, Michael.
Yeah.
Is that covered in the line under general government as insurance?
This will be separate from the general government insurance, right?
Right.
So,
but is that health insurance on that line?
No, that's liability, property. We've assigned the premium expenses within the departments because they reflect the personnel in those departments.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
Just one question. The benefit of any employee or retired employee of the town, wouldn't they be covered under retirement insurance? I'm just asking a question, I'm not...
So we are typically, yes, there are some responsibilities of the town, though, with respect to retirees and the pension systems. And I'm not an expert on this in any stretch. But we do have retirees who we do have a certain level of responsibility for. Any future retirees could roll back on, again, in the middle of the year. If that's an issue, then we'll be able to use the funds for that. I don't expect it, but... All right. Article 6, Town Hall Expendable Trust Fund. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the Town Hall Expendable Trust Fund previously established in 1998 for the maintenance and repairs to Town Hall to be funded by $20,000 from the December 31st, 2024 unassigned fund balance. No money can be raised from taxation. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend from said fund, recommended by the select board 3-0. So we've had a expendable trust fund for the town hall maintenance. We've drawn down on it, so this is in effect just replenishing that for a variety of things that we do around here to try to maintain town hall. Any questions? Yes, John.
Prior to the request of the select board to become the agents to expend from the fund, it's always been put to vote.
Expenditures of that's a great question.
I'm just curious of the language by the select board.
To name as agents?
Wouldn't they have
Sue,
been prior?
do you recall was the select board already agents?
No,
I recall,
no.
what's that? No, this is
That's why
changing.
we're naming you as agent.
Okay.
There was no one named as an agent
Got it?
So would that be, did you check to see if that's okay to do where the fund is previously established? Would be a separate warrant article to name the select board under fund? Since the fund.
Did DRA look at these already?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just questioning only
Yep.
because the fund is previously established, so I just didn't know if the language could be added or if it should be a separate.
A separate warrant?
I think they can agents at any time, but I'll make sure.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, John. It's a good question. Because you're right, for previously established, because the town body is the agent, unless it's somebody else has been named. Typically, if you're going to change that, it does require a separate vote for that. But we'll find out. All right, road maintenance expendable trust fund. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the road maintenance expendable trust fund previously established in 2012 for the maintenance and repairs of town roads to be funded $50,000 from the December 31st, 2024 unassigned fund balance. No amount to be raised by taxation. Recommended by the select board 3-0. So, again, we've had a road fund. This is basically, the difference between this and the line item is that the line item really goes to the 20-year paving plan. So we allocate operating budget money to really go with that plan. But what we do know is some year we have major snowstorms and suddenly we have less money available for paving that summer. Or crude oil prices go really up and instead of being able to pave 3/4 of a mile, we can only do half a mile of road. And so by having an expendable trust fund, it just, and again, hopefully we never utilize those funds, but it gives the town a ability and a buffer if based upon weather or pricing for us to stay on our 20-year road plan, which is really what the goal of this is, to make sure that we don't fall behind. All right. Any questions about the road maintenance expendable trust fund?
What's the current balance? What's the ideal?
Do you know what the current balance is? I don't think it's a lot. I believe the road agent has utilized funds on that in the past to do various maintenance. I want to say it's less than $10,000. It's been as high, I want to say it's been as high as $40,000 in the near past. So this basically just kind of reconstitutes it. All right. Legal expendable trust fund. Shall the Article 8, shall the town vote to establish a legal expendable trust fund for RSA 3119A for the purpose of payment of unanticipated legal costs? The town will raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 to be placed in this fund with the amount to come from the December 31st, 2024 unassigned fund balance. No money to be raised from taxation. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend from said fund, recommended by the select board 3-0. This is, as I mentioned before, for not the typical legal, but the unanticipated legal expenses that may arise. Like many of these other trust funds, is more to deal with sudden things as opposed to what we can plan on and get past on the operating budget for March. Any questions on this trust fund? Yeah.
So I know with certain funds that we establish in the town, there's limits of what we might consider to put in those funds. Is there any thought to how much money might end up in that fund, or how often the town may come back to the taxpayers to ask to add to it? Just
So,
out of curiosity.
are you talking in the funds in general or specifically for this?
For that trust fund,
Yep.
if there's no expenditure, say, next year, would we bother to put money in it?
So we overran our legal budget quite extensively this year.
Yeah.
Again, for the reasons I expressed before. What this will basically do, based upon what our overrun was, this is approximately what we thought. Now,
I'm just curious.
yeah, and I mean, when we talked about this, it was kind of like, what's the right number? Not sure, but based upon the overrun that we've had, this seemed like a decent number To be honest, I don't think any of us are wedded to it. It is more the thought than anything else. Fortunately, so our unassigned fund balance, has grown over the years. We're now up to 1.2 million in our unassigned fund balance. I think-
1.2 and change.
Yeah, it's around 1.2 million.
13%, 1.2.
So the unassigned fund balance, there's statutory limits on both the low end and the high end. Low end is 5%, and high end is 17%. When I got on the board 9 years ago, I think we were running about 6.5%. We were near the low end. We're now at 14%?
13 and change.
Yeah, 13 and change. So if you think about that as our rainy day fund and a fund to utilize for these types of purposes, we're in pretty good shape. And we've done this despite the fact that on average, our tax rate has only gone up about 2% a year for the last decade. So we're in good shape with respect to that. Like I said, John, somebody comes to deliberative and says, can we lower that by 10,000? Sure. In my opinion, it's a guesstimate. We were basically basing it on the overrun for this year as a number to target. Win.
So to that question, two questions. One, nature of John, it's a great question. Inquiry of why you're asking that. But before I get to that, this is a pool of fund money that needs the select board to buy. The select board is the agent to expend that money, right?
Correct.
Depending on what it is. John, is your question what's the limit that they can spend up to? Or your question was, hey, can somebody come and say, let's put $100,000 in there?
Yeah, was more along the lines of, in most of the expendable trust funds, like if we were looking to purchase either a fire truck or a police car, we would have a high limit of where that number might be. Or say at the elementary school, they have expendable trust funds for safety or for technology or for other components that have like recommended limits. So I was just curious if this number was like a starting point and we're trying to build this fund to say an $80,000 number, or if it's just like, let's get some money in the fund so in case things go sideways. And then I think Michael answered the question pretty accurately. It's sort of a good guesstimate for what the board might anticipate.
Outside of to your point, John, outside of the capital reserve funds, because those are the ones we treat more as building funds,
Yeah.
the celebration one, that could build, but that's purely based on like donations and stuff like that. But the health insurance, the town hall expendable, the road maintenance, the legal one, those are, to your point, not funds that we want to build for, funds that we want to have in case something goes sideways. Exactly.
That way we don't have to start scrambling and swapping money around, and two, we don't have to take it out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Yep.
But you can't, you can't dig from one to the other.
No.
Without.
No. You can only spend, the selectmen can't either. The selectmen, any of these funds can only be expended for the purpose of the fund. So we can't say, hey, we got $35,000 in the legal expendable trust fund. Let's use that for the fire department. That's not allowed. These are only for the purposes described in the fund. And again, these are things, we all learn here. Health insurance premiums, obviously, a potential pitfall. Legal expense, we have now learned, for 50 years, it probably was never a problem. We now know, okay, we need to be better prepared. So that's the purpose of these things, is not to spend the money. Ideally, 5 years from now, there's still $35,000 plus whatever the investment. Trustees are in investments in that fund, and we haven't had to expend it, but we know it's there in case we need it for some surprise.
How, to use another analogy, this is like a reserve fuel tank.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
Or a
when they
tanker.
decide to expend, it comes to the trustees who then look at it and make sure that whatever the expense is falls within the boundaries. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's several sets of eyes on any of these transactions.
Right, it's all from the trustees of trust.
Yep.
And I did find last month's report, we had $29,000 in road maintenance.
Oh, 29. Oh,
29.
great. Any other questions on legal expense trust fund? Great. I know Hobie has been working diligently on the ALS. So why don't you talk about the Article 9?
I will jump, Jeff, do you want to jump on in that first?
Yeah.
Because this is your.
Do you want to read it first? Read it out loud?
Yeah, I'll read it. Advanced Life Support Municipal Intercept Program Expendable Trust Fund. Well, that's a mouthful, but we'll get into why it's such a mouthful in such a long time. Article 9. Shall the town vote to establish an Advanced Life Support Municipal Intercept Program Expendable Trust Fund for RSA 31:19-A for the purpose of funding emergency advanced life support, parentheses, paramedic services. This fund is authorized to accept privately donated gifts, legacies, and advises to be utilized for the same purpose as the trust fund. The town will raise an appropriate sum of $25,000 to be placed in this fund to be funded by the December 31st, 2024 unassigned fund balance. No money to be raised by taxation. Further, to name the select board as agents to expend from said fund. Recommended by the select board, 3-0 majority vote. Chief.
All right, so I'm sure most of you are all aware that Exeter Hospital, Beth Israel, had decided to cut the paramedic ALS program. Obviously, it was quite a shock to all the towns around, especially the smaller towns. So there's an organization out there called the Seacoast Chief Fire Officers. We put together a group to go out and study what the feasibility would be to have paramedic coverage for our area. There were 3 proposals put out there. One was what we're going to call the Plastow Plan, and that's basically what you guys are seeing here. And if you already read this, I'm sorry, I was repeating stuff. And then there was a for-profit plan, and there was a non-profit plan. We're looking at getting all this stuff started in a very short time frame we had, which is beginning of March, if not sooner, because the ALS program in Exeter is failing big time right now because they're all leaving. Obviously they're going to get another job somewhere else. So the Plastow plan was picked by the Seacoast Chiefs as the most feasible plan. One of the reasons was that they had some Plastow had just recently put in a paramedic program in their town. Plastow, believe it or not, is a big town. They didn't do any EMS coverage or anything. Over the past 2 or 3 years, this new chief has brought it into his department, set up a paramedic program. So he had a lot of experience, not only doing it in Plastow, he had experience doing it in another large town in Connecticut. So he put together a plan that looked pretty good. He got out some Hobie, we went out and we found a philanthropist group that was very interested in it. It was a very large donor to Exeter Hospital for many, many years. They weren't happy with Beth Israel. They cut their donations right off, and they worked with this plan to be able to help get a jump start going with this plan. So it's about, and the figures aren't exactly right now, but it's about a $2.7 million investment for the first year, which is going to be covered 100% by donations. And that includes a couple of, what I call expendable trust accounts and accounts to get going, because they know as these things get older, vehicles get older and stuff like that, they get replaced. So the plan right now is for the first 5 years to be a staged plan. 100% funded first year, 80%, 60%, boom, boom, down. When it does get to this plan here, when it does get down after the 5 years, it's be a fairly substantial cost for the town. It's probably in the $70,000 to $80,000 a year. However, there's still a chance, as this grows and stuff, that they can find more donations, more organizations out there to donate to it. So that's kind of all up in the air. The town of Newfields is not committed to this plan yet. No town is committed to the plan yet. It's still in its infancy, but over the next couple of months, this is gonna come to fruition. Unfortunately, the town of Newmarket is not going with this plan. Okay, Newmarket is our transport ambulance service. Doesn't make a difference if we go with the plan. Newmarket is elected to go with McGregor paramedics out of Durham. It does make sense for Newmarket. You know, Newmarket's going to grab, and where are they going to transport from? It's tough for another ALS unit coming out of Brentwood to get there in time or whatever. So I'm going to look at the McGregor plan. Most likely, I'm going to recommend the Plastow plan. I haven't made up 100% of my mind yet until I see the McGregor plan. If you guys just explain the ALS, medical calls go out in 5 stages. They call it Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. Echo being the worst. Okay, that means you're in dire need of advanced care. Delta, Echo are what ALS is needed for. ABC, most of our EMTs, our EMTAs can cover them calls. Part of the problem with this whole process is, in my mind, is what we call abuse of the ALS system. There are towns that call ALS for every call. So what's really good with this Plastow program is they're gonna rate the call. They will go, if I call them on a call, they will come to Newfields. But if there's a Delta or an Echo call coming in, they will prioritize and go to that call. Where Exeter Hospital was a great paramedic service, treated us well for 30 years. I mean, did a great job. They were committed. So a lot of times when you wanted an ALS, you couldn't get it because it was going somewhere else. You know, it's covering a lot of towns. I think ALS, the total calls for ALS were in the year were
Ours?
no, for the 13 towns.
Well, I know Raymond had, what, 700?
Yeah, it was upwards of 2,300 calls. So the chances of getting ALS, it's not guaranteed. This is not guaranteed either. We do have other plans. Now, understand, Newmarket ambulance service right now is at 50% coverage for paramedics. 50% of the time they have it on duty. That can change, just like anybody else talking about personnel changing. We have Exeter ALS as our #1. If they're not available, Exeter Fire covers us. But I can't go to Exeter Fire and say, I need you all the time, because it's unfair to them. They've got their own costs. I think this Plastow plan is a good plan. And if everything works out, the way it planned, it's another service that you pay for that you don't ever want to use. But if you don't pay for it, I believe right now, if we sign a contract for a year, ALS comes over here, it's an $85 charge. The ambulance will be above and beyond that. If you're non-contracted, they will still come here, but it's going to be a $600 or $800 charge. As I say, it's a moving plan. I understand we only had there's about 6 months time frame for when they announced this to get it organized, and I think the group has done a great job. And they don't really want to be mentioned, but there's a philanthropy group here in town that has done a phenomenal job.
They have been able to tap substantial funds. They've committed to buying a brand new ALS intercept vehicle, not even batted an eye about it. And they have committed to funding into the future for us, as well as bringing in other philanthropic resources to mitigate the cost of the expense. And I think we had, 21 calls last year?
We had 21 ALS calls, and I looked up our ALS calls, and every one of them was a Delta or an Echo call.
And so with 31, 32 years, this has basically been a gratis service. We haven't had to pay for it. Well, the piper's coming due, pay the piper. But as the point you're making, having met these guys up close and personal, they're really good guys to have in the backyard and have them available. So when you need them, you need them. And I've been
Were
really
you a
impressed.
Delta or a Delta?
I'm not sure what I was.
You were Delta.
I was a Delta.
I'm not supposed to talk about that. You're gonna give me
Oh, I'm
permission-
waiting my
you're
hand.
gonna give me permission to say that.
I don't care about my HIPAA. I've been really impressed, one, by the organization, the efficiency, the timely execution, they've been able to pull this together, because there's a bazillion moving pieces that they have managed to pull in. They've also been able to get the executive council involved. They've got members of the state senate, governor's office, Kelly had us on board, and so there's pressure coming to tap funds that Beth Israel has not really expended as they agreed to in the merger with Exeter Hospital. So there's funds that they're tapping to pull out of that to fund and take care of this, just because the way Beth Israel and Exeter has handled this has been less than commendable. And one of the points you mentioned about Brentwood, they're going to have one of the ALS intercept vehicles in Plastown, and they're looking at putting the other one in Brentwood. But at the last meeting, it was very clearly put forth that once they analyze the data in the first year, if they need to move it, they will move it. And they said, we're not opposed to, in the future, putting a third vehicle on as the situation develops and they have the ability to analyze the data. Jeff's been really on top of this, and so Plastown, I mean, I'm not in any way, I'm just trying to stay ahead of what is transpiring so that we have to brief the board. This is the fire chief's prerogative, and we're the advocates for finding a solution, is what the function of the select board is on this. But it's something, you know, if a spouse or one of your kids or a parent or something, you don't want to be dumping around trying to figure out how we're going to get a paramedic on today.
ALS, and I'm sure you all know, it makes a huge difference on a Delta or an Echo. It can mean life or death. You're getting hospital care in the ambulance. You know, you get your cardiac drug, you get anything, you get drugs, especially stroke. That's what you see the most of it. I like that. It's so important to get that in that first hour. And you know, and looking at some of the stuff the Attorney General is going after him on it. I mean, this could, you know, and I'm not saying this could be paid for the next 10 years. You know, just like
The pieces just have to fall into place. And I want to go back to one more thing you mentioned. The philanthropic donations that are standing by and that have already been made, I mean, just stunning. The effort that people, and some of them in the community have stood up and said, we will make this right for the town. So it's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I'm curious about, it makes me feel a little better knowing that you said Plastow will send an ALS vehicle to Brentwood.
there'll be one housed in there.
Based
Will
in
that be full-time? Is
Yes.
that temporary?
Yes,
or-
no, that's full-time. There'll be 2 paramedics on duty.
And
So they can split, so that, you know, so if they have multiple calls, they can split. So there'll be 2 on duty, 24/7, 365.
And the push time from the time they're towed to the time they're on the road is 120 seconds, 2 minutes. That's it. No dubbing around waiting. And he said if they're not, Chief Knudsen said if they're not moving, they're fired out, get somebody else to do it.
So the second part of that is, what is the response time from point A to Newfields?
Right. So we're not as I say, we're not as close as obviously we were to Exeter ALS and Exeter Hospital. But I'm going to tell you that with Exeter Hospital running 2,600 calls last year, they were very seldom at the hospital. Okay, they were either coming back from a call from somewhere else. There is a delay, but a lot of times that's an intercept program. So you know, if the ambulance recognizes this as a Delta or an Echo call, they're going to scoop and run. Okay, and then get intercepted that. We're not in the best position for that in Newfields because it depends on what hospital they're going to. You know, you decide to go to Portsmouth Hospital it's a tough situation. The reason why they put it in Brentwood is because 85% of the calls for ALS are the west of 125.
But again, back to that point, they're gonna analyze that data, and look at it very closely, and see if they need to adjust accordingly. What was the push time, Jeff? So if they get a call at Exeter, what's their push time when they'll show coming out of Exeter?
Exeter was very quick. It depended on where they were in the hospital too. So sometimes they can be up on, Exeter Hospital paramedics, they didn't sit there in the truck. Their job, they had to work the emergency room, they had to do all kinds of stuff, but they were very quick.
So here's the difference, were they toned, were the paramedics toned at the same time as the call came in?
Yes.
Or did they have to wait for ALS request?
No, it depends on, the way ours is set up with dispatches, we have a protocol. If it comes in a Delta or an Echo, immediate, that ALS is toned at the same time, we're toned at the same time as New Marcus.
And that's what they're gonna do with Plastow?
Yeah, it'll be the same.
Immediate tone.
If it's requested, if you get there and you decide you need them, obviously there's that delay, but on any of the, what do we call the ALS protocol calls that we dispatch immediately. Now, we can also look at the situation, New Market is, as I said, they've done a great job for us. They have a board, it's called I Am Responding in their dispatch area, and they have all the towns up there. So they can look and say, so if we dispatch for an ALS unit here, and they say ALS is busy over there, they can immediately look up and say, Stratham has one, Exeter has one, or Epping has one. On duty, they can dispatch that. So as a backup.
And I think the important thing to note here is that what we're asking for with this warrant article is to basically establish this fund. It's not going to wed us to any of the Plastow plan or any of the other plans, but it will give us, the town, the ability to basically continue to participate in an LAS paramedic program and be able to, as Toby pointed out, take privately donated gifts that would basically help the town pay for this on a go-forward basis.
And it'll also mitigate the impact coming out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Yep.
Because this is coming out of unexpended funds.
Yep.
Undesignated funds.
Did you say that your guys are ALS certified?
Our guys, we don't have any ALS in town.
New Market?
Yeah. We have, most guys are all EMTs, we have one EMTA, which is an advanced, but it's not ALS certified.
Wayne, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I think you answered the chief. The Stratum has an ALS service available, but it's part-time.
They're trying to get one going right now. They're manned by paramedics about 10% of the time right now. So, but what I'm saying is with this board, it's called I Am Responding, it reports everybody who's on duty anyway. It reports us.
Right.
We have people on duty at night, it reports us. It reports everybody in their educational level. So they can look around and they can see that, I can grab Exeter's great, but we can't overwhelm Exeter with calls either because they have their own. But they can look around, maybe one on duty in Epping. Epping is, I think right now is, talked to him the other day, I think 40% of the time they have a medic on duty. So, within a 10-minute response time, there's always a medic available. So, McGregor always has two on. It sounds like it's a long ways from Durham, but they've come to calls here before. It's unbelievable how quick they can get in.
And McGregor's for-profit, right? Is that accurate? No? McGregor, are they for-profit? They're private. Right, that's what
They're private.
Yeah. All right, any other questions about Article 9? Excellent. Article 10, so weekly curbside recycling. This is by citizen petition. The town of Newfields is to vote to raise and appropriate the necessary funds in the amount as determined based on the results of the formal RFP bid process to provide weekly curbside recycling pickup, including glass. This money is to be used solely for weekly curbside recycling pickup with class included in the list of acceptable recyclables. If this warrant article vote does not receive a majority of votes to support weekly recycling pickup with class, the current bi-weekly curbside recycling pickup is to remain in full effect per Article 8 of the 2024 Town of Newfield's Town warrant vote without change. So this was by citizens. This it came before the town today. Today was the last day for citizen petition. It had the record of 10 signatures.
25.
Yep. And so, again, we're just reading this tonight. Obviously, it can be changed and discussed in more detail. Are there any questions about Article 10? Yes.
Michael, when will we understand the cost for this?
So,
weekly recycling?
there was no appropriation mentioned here. It raises the question of, as a body, you typically vote for a particular dollar amount for a particular activity, and there's no dollar amount indicated here. I think this is going to have to be hashed out at deliberative session, potentially with amendments. One of the things we have done over the last couple of years, again, is we moved to the bi-weekly, but we also removed glass from the recycling stream because glass doesn't get recycled. It's really heavy, and so you're paying a lot of money to put glass into a recycling stream. It's one of the reasons we had it taken out. And to be honest, our trash collector, it's in his benefit to have glass in the recycling stream, and he's the one who said, don't put glass in the recycling stream because there's no market for it, and you're just paying me a lot more money to haul this stuff around. So, and the same with cardboard. That's why we have cardboard collected down here at Town Hall. Cardboard is really heavy, and you put it in the recycling stream, you're now paying $400 a ton for that material, whereas you're not burdened by the cost of that because we do it here at Town Hall. So, to your question, I think a lot of that is going to have to be hashed out at deliberative. Anybody who supports this store? I don't know if you want to speak about it.
Yeah, so to share the information that was gathered in the process of developing the petition, the assumption is that we were to stick with the current service provider, Jim, that the warrant article and this request of 32,805, which is just double the pickup costs. And talking with some of the other service providers in the area, can actually reduce that cost, but we would have to do so by requesting a formal bid, since the information provided as a formal bid to the town is a public amount of information, and they're going to do that without a formal requisition request for proposals. So at this point, the only number that we can get that is solid is the doubling of the transfer cost right now, which is 32,805 from the current service provider. So in the event that we don't a requisition formal bids, that would be another, that would be requisition of one article, so we have to amend that or fix that, I guess, in the deliberative session. One of the local service providers, Beacon Waste, did provide some estimates for trucking, and you can see them here. And note that their charges for all of their recycling trucking is less than what we would be with the current service provider right now. So while their municipal solid waste costs is something a little bit more. So this is I guess, a conversation we had, and I think we're arguing that may not necessarily be one article, but it's at least something to be considered. So at this point, unless we do a formal bid request, the warrant article would ask for 3305, which is double the trucking.
Thank you.
Question, maybe it's best John, as moderator, can we add a number into a warrant article?
So, one of the key parts of deliberative when it comes to warrant article amendments is to not change subject matter. So if the subject matter is
question was asked of me today as well when this came in. I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
I think, as our moderator, I'll leave that in your hands.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a little research in advance of the deliberative, but again, typically what we're told is if a warrant article had an amount, that amount could be amended by the body to zero. You couldn't change the subject matter of the petition article. You couldn't say, you can't make it a negative. You can say to not see if the town. So there's certain limitations that can negate the effectiveness of a warrant article, but at the end of the day, the governing body of the deliberative session would be the ones to either make amendments or not, and then ultimately what the outcome is, what's going to go before the voters. I don't know. It's a good question with regard to adding money to an article that has not been warned to the body. And actually, if I could, I know in reading the letter, and I know, Sue, you said that the number was sufficient for, and I'm confident it is, but it does say the petition signed by self-certified town of Newfield residents. I think we all know the law is that there has to be a minimum of 25 registered voters. So I just want to make sure there's clarification for that.
Yeah, there were 42 registered voters for signing the petition. My concern is they signed the petition, but there's no dollar amount there that they're putting forward to the town. I mean, it could be $60,000. Would they have signed the petition? Would they sign it if it was 32? It really is only a petition for weekly recycling.
And that's, I think, what John has to be basically identify before deliberative session, what the rules of the road will be for potentially amending this particular.
Sure. So,
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I apologize.
my name is Todd Murdoch.
Okay.
I'm the one who led the charge on this one. Yeah, so that's my first stab at it all, so figuring it out as we go. So I appreciate
We like the fact that you're participating.
It's
It's always a good
process
thing.
as well. The petition does have a dollar amount, but it's associated as a per household per month charge at $4.50 per month per household is what the petition has on it. It's not a total budget number, so in retrospect.
Let me just recommend, again, not knowing what can and can't be done before deliberative,
right.
let me recommend that if you come to deliberative, you know really what the overall number is.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally makes sense. I appreciate that, so for sure.
Yep.
So, and I can talk, we can talk
Sure.
offline about this, about what it is that we can do to gather the additional info.
With the previous amount that we were paying, compared to what the new price would be, you also have to include the glass going into it, because we didn't recycle glass previously.
Right, so the cost of you're right, it would require a new bid overall, because we would reduce the waste going into the municipal solid waste side, and then so that would reduce our tipping fees going into the trash, and then we would increase the weight of the mass going into the recycling side, then we would increase the tipping fees over there. So through talking with Jim, our current service provider, the number ends up being a wash in terms of tipping fees. So that's why it wasn't included in this. But it sounds like I've got some extra numbers to work out for the deliberative session to provide.
Yeah, that was clarity. I mean, that's the.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hold on, I was actually going to him next.
Oh, sorry.
Just like, you know.
So Todd, I've got a couple questions here, and I need some edification.
Yeah.
The current recycling arrangement of bi-weekly curbside recycling and pickup of glass does not meet the needs of the Newfield town. How so?
So we're gonna debate that part?
No, I want knowledge of
Yeah, yeah.
what your logic is with this.
Oh, yeah. So I think a number of people are interested in getting back to a weekly cycle so that they aren't stuck trying to store all of the extras. In fact, many people have prioritized recycling, so they want to make sure that it all makes it into a recycling stream. So to not meet the need means that we're either stuck storing it and having additional space allocated to that we might not have. I'm speaking for everybody that was on all of this. Or on the flip side, those recyclables that people want to prioritize as being able to send to the recycling station end up being transferred to the trash because they don't have their own. We actually increase the amount of trash that we do potentially send to the dump by having a lengthened time between recycling.
Okay, so you're using those like blue boxes, those blue recycling bins?
Yeah.
So I went out and got a 110-gallon trash can, I put my recycling in, and I can go 2 weeks without even filling anything. So, and that's at the same, it's under the same rate, the same fares that we're using now. And then I just wanted to touch base on the recycling. If we take our total mainstream solid waste pickup and tipping fees, 530 tons, we divide that as a total of $130,928 by 530 tons, that comes out to $247 a ton, right? If we do it for the recycling, it was $31,850 for the pickup, $16,536 for the tipping, for a total of $48,386. We divided by 105 tons, which it was. That comes out to 460 tons. $460 a ton. So there's a substantial difference there that we're going to be paying. Now that slight increase is the contractor was bid at 500 tons. He's picking up 515 or 516, and it's cheaper than if we and people put in a 100-gallon trash can to hold the recycling because that's a priority. Then we don't have to pay all the additional tonnage because it's going to go up. And the thought process that I have heard proposed: if you want to recycle the glass, put the glass in. Put the glass in your recycling. But we maintain the same thing. Now we're not bumping our tonnage up. Now we're not putting another vehicle around the road because we go to weekly recycling. Now if you're in this carbon footprint thing, you put another truck on to go around and do the whole thing. So it kind of seems to me that if people just put like a 100-gallon trash can and put all their recycling in there, you've solved the problem that you're talking about. Now when I talked to Jim about it, he referenced in his phone call that this is based on inconveniencing folks because they had all this extra trash around. And so I kind of find it hard to ask people to put money into it when it's based on not being the most judicious use of resources, such as putting it in the trash can, maintaining like weight possession that we have.
Yeah. So I guess we are debating.
Well, I'm not debating,
because it sounds like they're
that's all I'm doing.
Yeah, so you're putting out the information. You've used an N of one for yourself for what works. So I appreciate that. That the one size fits for you. That's good. Other families are considerably larger and have additional. They have their own concerns and they have the right to request to spend their.
Oh, and I certainly respect your right to put this forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to know what you want.
I just want to make sure that we address the other issues in there too, especially the recycling committee that was commissioned in 2020 that made a recommendation for weekly pickup with full recycling of everything curbside, and that was not honored in the cases that were in there. In fact, much of what's been put in the for trash recycling program for the town has actually been brought into question by some of the other service providers in the area, trying to understand how we've pieced together what's considered a piecemeal trash and recycling program compared to all the other towns around.
Well, we're doing
but
it for a lot less money than anybody else around here.
To my point, we're not doing it for a lot less money, so we're getting into the debate point, which is why just Beacon Waste here alone can show that they're doing it for, that they can do it for the same or less overall.
Hold on. I'm comparing it to the quotes that we got from the providers about recycling when we put it back up to bid. What we're doing with L is far less than any of those providers. Now, if there are new providers now who are offering to do it for less, okay. But nobody should be arguing that we are not recycling for far less than what people quoted us. Other providers quoted us when we last put this in.
I think that's a great point, and that actually brings to the point Jim and I talked about. This is a market-driven economy.
So,
And the materials that we're talking about here, with making the argument that glass is not a commodity or not a recyclable product, are factually incorrect. While because most of 85% of the glass that's being sent to all the recycling stations is actually being recycled. Any of the glass that doesn't make it to recycling is actually being lost due to contamination. And most of the recycling centers in this area, with the exception of Turnkey, have washing stations in place to make sure that that's maximized. So the argument that glass has no market is really not a factual one. It's a disinformation.
Look, tonight's budget here, I don't want to, all of this is going to come out at the
Yeah,
work session, so let's, unless there's real questions about the article itself, let me move on, because I got one more. Go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, that goes back to my question about, okay, so we're going to the facts and talking about it, which will take, in my opinion, a significant amount of time. I hope everybody's prepared for that for the session. And respectful. Can we, if we look at this without a number, are we sitting here saying, okay, in the middle of fiscal year, we're going to get an RFP, if I understand it correctly. Somebody comes and says, oh, I'll bid for this. Hopefully it's for less and you get more services, which is doubtful. Are we saying that we're going to add this to the budget, whatever that number is? Because it's currently not in the budget, if I read understanding right? Correct. Right, so can we do that? Because somebody said, hey, $1 million. That's what I'm saying. We're going to recycle and wash, we're going to go crazy. I don't see that happening with it. Gross analogy is like, can we add numbers and money into a budget?
So I think that is really going to be determined by, I think, John's identification as to how this is written and what can be changed at deliberative. I don't want to hang that on you, but I think if we can't put a number in here, this gets really hard from a budget standpoint to implement.
I almost think that the feedback that I'm going to get from talking with folks in the HMA is going to be that inserting a dollar amount, if it pertains to the recycling, is going to be allowed. Because you can, in essence, remove a dollar amount from a warrant article, and a warrant article, whether it's petitioned or warned by the select board, is the same. It follows the same process and procedures. You have to be, careful about the subject matter change, or if it was a particular item that's prescribed by law, you have specific language that cannot be changed. But in this case, if the money pertains to the weekly recycling, then I'm not sure it would be a problem to interject it into the article.
And again, I think you identifying whether that change can or can't be made. But my point in terms of his question is, without a dollar figure, because at the end of the day, what you're talking about is putting a number down that is based upon how we raise and appropriate funds. Without that number, I'm not sure how we implement this properly under the requirements that, under our operating budget, we're going out and raising that via taxation. And the warrant articles that have funds associated with them that are designated as part of taxation, we are raising as part of taxation. If there is no number there, then what do we go raise? Because the voters, without a number there, what are the voters supposed to, are they saying $60,000? Is it $30,000? Is it another $40,000 of taxation? So my point is that if the number can get put on, great. If it can't get put on, honestly, I'll have concerns whether we can actually adopt this.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it can.
No, I tend to think you're right, John, but I want to set expectations here so that if we can't put if you come back and say, they said no, then we all understand that actually doing this without a number may be problematic.
I mean, the fact that the article contemplates necessary funding and the amounts to be determined in formal RFPs, I think it's not unlawful or unreasonable to put numbers to those
Yeah,
descriptions.
but you see what my point is
I do.
as spending money that voters haven't voted, what that number is kind of a,
Well, I'm not sure that the body would do that, but.
I don't either, but I'm just saying that, I'm assuming like you that a number can get put on. But just so everybody understands, if a number can't be put on, we may have a problem.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
The recycle and the trash contract, when is that expiring?
I think next year. I think next year's the last year.
So we wouldn't be doing an RFP until next year anyway.
We'll be doing an RFP
At the end of
in the fall of next year.
Potentially, regardless, you might have time to get the numbers that it needs to, because why would you be doing an RFP now if this passes? Because the number would be from an RFP.
It's a fair question,
Yeah.
right? Because we're going to enter a new RFP cycle in the fall. It's a fair question. Again, we can talk about this at the liberty.
yeah, but for me, it goes into, and Todd, I appreciate you bringing this up, right? And it's not the intent to say, not my intent to say, hey, whether you want it or not, or the validity of anything. It's literally to help John moderate a contentious issue where people want to dive into the specifics of why it's great or not.
No, it's a great point.
I want to just make sure, hey, you're showing up and representing us. Awesome, do it because it's hard. But like keeping the train on the tracks for the road for John, go ahead, because it can get, and we're allowed to debate, and it's fine, it's a healthy debate can happen. But the intent of this is like, excellent point, say if we're going to go into it next year, should wait for next year, but that's one option. But just trying to get a line from the group leading this, like, so this doesn't go off the rails too far. And that's
Again,
really
that'll all be at
helping
delivery.
you.
And John gets to drive that train. Unfortunately, we don't have.
Order!
Yes, capital.
Whatever it is, like, it's tough because
No, that's great. That's
I don't, it's like, hey, it's awesome.
Yep.
Somewhat different question.
Yeah.
Do our town residents have any obligation to put anything in recycling?
Absolutely not. There is no obligation. No. Many of them don't. I can tell you that right now. All right. So that's Article 10. Now, before you go, there is an Article 11. Oh, Sue, you handed it out? You're a rock star. So I apologize. This is my fault. This chief had brought this up to me. We had gone over the wording. We talked about it in the select board, but I forgot to include it in our list. Article 11, fire truck disposal. To see if the town will vote to authorize the fire department to sell the retiring fire trucks provided. However, they shall first submit any such proposed sale to the select board for review and recommendation. Funds from the sale of these vehicles will be deposited in the fire truck capital reserve fund previously established for the purchase of future fire trucks. This article will remain in effect until rescinded by majority vote of the citizens of the town. So in effect, it's allowing the fire department to sell trucks contingent on the board approving the sale. Any questions on this one?
I guess I'm just kind of curious, how much does it cost for a new fire
A new fire truck?
We don't want to.
$1 million. Seriously.
We have one on order right now.
Okay.
It's been on order for just, it'll be a year.
A year, yeah.
It's about 800 days to go. And you can use it for your.
$1 million.
I figured it's
I think
And that's not a ladder truck or, this is just a.
I believe our cost is $911,000,
Yeah.
providing there's no increases. So, yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
And unfortunately, a used truck is worth,
A gently used truck.
A gently used truck, I'm hoping for 10 or 12 for our oldest one.
10 or 12, huh?
And maybe
It's older.
30 to 50 for our other one.
Great. We'll take what we can
We'll
get.
be looking to sell one this year, our reserve piece. Our truck, the new one's gonna be replaced, but obviously I can't sell that until the new one comes in. So sometime in 2026,
how old's the oldest one, Jeff? How old's the oldest one?
What do you want me to go?
What year?
46? No. What do you mean, our oldest truck we have?
No, not the oldest member of the department, the oldest truck.
The oldest one will be selling in 87.
All right. Any other questions regarding the budget or the warrant articles by anybody? All right, well, deliberative session, February 4th, is that right? February 4th? Hopefully we'll see you all there.
February 4th, yeah, correct.
I'd like it to be an open bar, but I don't think our moderator wants that to be the case.
BYOD?
I just want to say thanks. I know that the ALS issue is a huge one, and it sounds like you guys have done a whole lot of work to
Oh, yeah.
try to figure it out.
That's-
I want to say thanks for that.
Well, it's a lot of group, Holden's done a lot of work on it, of the group, hopefully, I think it's well set up and well planned for the amount of time that we had to do this.
Yeah, you guys nobody had any time to really
Initially,
jump
it
on
was
that.
10 days.
Yeah, initially it was 10 days, they were gonna give us 10 days.
Yeah. Thank you all. I will vote the motion to adjourn this, budget hearing, second by Hobie, all in favor? Aye.
Hi, Steve. Maybe too late to change it, but it's just.
This or
We're not going to establish a fund.
okay.
Okay.
Every year.
Kind of the way.
That sounds like a content change, which may not.
I don't know if they have frozen today or not. I don't